Okay, doing audio checks real quick before I get the show started. Got everything set up and have all the notes ready. Today is going to be another episode of Strange Stories. I'll go check the audio out real quick. Oh, that is not what I was going to do. It's supposed to go to my channel. And then, okay. I guess I am not started yet. Or they must have made some changes. I'm not quite sure. No. Yeah. So I'm trying to. That's the one thing in studio they should make it optional. There, there we go. There we go. It's finally. Audio is good on Beamstream. But yeah, what I was saying is they need to make it optional where you can hear the audio from the studio in there and make it a whole lot easier. So let's go to Rumble. Check out the Rumble. See what it sounds like. Audio sounds good there. 1, 2, X. X sounds good. Sounds good on D Live. Let's see what's going on here. It says that I'm streaming, but I'm not showing nothing on Twitch. There we go. Hit refresh. Sounds good on Twitch. Sounds good on Kick. And sounds good on YouTube. So we're up and ready to go. Today's going to be good. I kind of got carried away on some of the stuff that I was doing this week and almost forgot to get my notes ready and everything for this show. But just to put it out there, I did get it done. Today's going to be a pretty good episode. So I already did my smoke break and I got my coffee, so I'm set up and it's the top of the hour. All right, so let me go quiet and do my countdown. Okay. In my head, I don't do my countdown out loud no more. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Strange Stories. I'm Roger Hanson. I'm here with another strange story for you guys. Now, today I want to do something that I really love, and this has to do with the Sumerians. This has some of the oldest folklore in human history. So, what you're going to hear today is some of the old folklore surrounding the Udug. Now, I've done some episodes on my other channel, The Storyteller, where I told some stories concerning the Udug and other spirits that were not very, very good. But this one isn't about stories, it's not about fiction, it's about the folklore, the actual historic folklore behind the Udug. If you've heard old Jewish folklore about Lilith, this is the episode that you really do want to listen to because it's really good stuff. I became fascinated with the Sumerians and the Mesopotamians period It doesn't matter if it's Sumerian, Babylonian, or the Assyrians. I became obsessed with them about, I'd say about maybe 5 years ago, and I've loved reading about it ever since. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the folklore about the Udog. The Udog, also known as the Utuku in Akkadian, were supernatural beings in Sumerian and Akkadian mythology. Their nature was ambiguous. They could be either benevolent or malevolent, depending on their role in myths and incantations. The term Udog is often related as demon or spirit, but it does not carry the strictly negative connotations of demon in later religious traditions. The Sumerian word Udog later became Utuku in Akkadian. Unlike later demonologies, where spirits were explicitly good or evil, Udog could function as either protective spirits or harmful entities. Protective Udogs were associated with gods and acted as guardian spirits or intercessors who could aid humans in times of troubles. They were invoked in prayers and exorcisms to ward off malevolent forces. Now, the malevolent Udog were believed to cause disease, suffering, and misfortune. They were typically described in incantations and exorcism texts as the source of afflictions. Udogs appear in Mesopotamian exorcism texts, particularly in the Udog series, meaning evil Udog. These texts were used as rituals to remove curses, illnesses, or supernatural afflictions. In these texts, malevolent Udog were depicted as lurking in desolate places, causing sudden illnesses or nightmares, attacking the body and soul of a person, being expelled by rituals performed by priests or healers. Udogs are similar to other spirits and demons in Mesopotamian beliefs. One would be the Galu, more dangerous and an underworld demon. Then you have Lamashtu, a female demon who attacked infants. After that, you have Pazuzu, a wind demon that could protect against evil forces, or could also be malevolent, or malevolent. I keep forgetting which one. Sometimes Udogs were linked to the underworld, but they were not always seen as infernal beings. The Udog Hall incantations were designed to drive out evil Udog. These rituals involved burning incense and herbs, chanting sacred texts, offering sacrifices to the gods, using figurines or amulets to trap the spirit. Priests known as Ashipu or Ashipu, which means exorcists, specialized in removing demonic afflictions and were crucial in Mesopotamian religious practices. The concept of spiritual entities influencing human fate likely influenced later demonologies in Zoroastrianism, Judaism, Christianity, as well as Islam. The protective and malevolent aspects of the Udog resembles the Djinn or the Jinn in Islamic traditions, which can be either helpful or harmful. The Udogs were a significant part of the Mesopotamian religion or religious thought, embodying both protective and destructive supernatural forces. Their presence in incantations, prayers, and rituals highlights the ancient Mesopotamian view of a world filled with spiritual influences, where divine intervention and exorcism were necessary to maintain balance and protection from unseen threats. Pazuzu is a prominent supernatural entity from Mesopotamian mythology, primarily associated with Akkadian, Babylonian, and Assyrian beliefs. He was a wind demon, feared for his ability to bring misfortune, disease, and famine, yet also revered for his protective powers against other malevolent spirits, particularly Lamashtu, a demon that preyed upon infants and pregnant women. Pazuzu is typically depicted with a canine or lion-like face with large bulging eyes and sharp teeth, a scaly or feathered body with human-like arms and claws, two pairs of large bird-like wings, a serpent-headed phallus, the legs and talons on a bird of prey, or the legs and talons of a bird of prey, the raised right hand in a gesture of warning or power. His tail is often in the form of a scorpion or a serpent. This composite form represents his connection to the wind, sky, and underworld, blending feathers of predatory and supernatural creatures. Pazuzu played a dual role in Mesopotamian mythology, acting both as bringer of destruction and protector against the greater evil. Pazuzu was believed to rule the southwest wind, which carried drought, locust plagues, and disease, especially fever-related illnesses. He was invoked in spells warning against sickness, famine, and disaster caused by malevolent forces. Pazuzu's main role was to ward off Lamashtu, a terrifying female demon who stole the newborns and attacked pregnant women. Small Pazuzu amulets and statues were placed in homes around the necks of women or buried under doorways to ward off spirits and evil forces. Exorcists used Pazuzu in rituals to drive out lesser demons. He appears in various Akkadian and Babylonian texts, particularly in protective spells, incantations, and exorcisms. He is frequently mentioned in cuneiform inscriptions on protective amulets. Tablets from Nineveh and Babylon contain prayers and charms invoking Pazuzu's name to repel sickness and demonic attacks. A notable example of an incantation involving Pazuzu is "I am Pazuzu, son of Hanbi, the king of the evil wind demons. I rise up against Lamashtu and chase her away." Statues and amulets of Pazuzu have been uncovered in Assyria, Babylonian, and Persian sites dating back to the 8th through the 6th centuries BCE. Bronze Pazuzu head was found in Nimrod, confirming his widespread use as a household protector. Pazuzu amulets were often worn as pendants or placed inside tombs. Pazuzu shares characteristics with the jinn in Islamic beliefs, especially in his ability to both harm and protect. His imagery, particularly as a winged monstrous figure, has influenced later depictions of demons in Western occultism and fiction. His association with exorcism made him a key figure in modern depictions of possession, most famously The Exorcist in 1973, where his name was used for the possessing entity. Pazuzu was a complex figure in Mesopotamian mythology, embodying both destructive powers and protective strength. While he was feared as a demon of plague and wind, he was also invoked as a guardian against greater evils, particularly Lamashtu. His widespread presence in archaeological finds, religious texts, and in iconography demonstrates his lasting importance in ancient Near East spiritual and ritual practices. Among the ranks of the Udog were various shadow demons, each with its unique traits and roles. So here I will go through some of the other uh, demons of the Udog, which are shadow demons basically. There was Mema Lemnu, a, a spell and shadow demon connected to witches. There's Hanbi, a personification of evil and father of Pazuzu. Then you had Ardat Lily, a shadow demon with features of women, dogs, and scorpions, known as a devourer of children. Then you had Vardit Lilitu, a vampire shadow demon, predator of children. Alu Lelu, a faceless shadow demon. Then you had Pazuzu, the leader of all evil spirits on the earth. Then you had Mokorez Lamuti, a demon capable of possessing individuals. There was Mamtar, an infectious shadow demon allied with Erishkigal. Then you had T-U, a demon causing headaches, allied with Dinger. Then you had uh, Akazu, a demon of pestilence, allied with Lamashtu. Then you had Kilili, a demon connected to owls, allied with Inanna. There was also Labasu, a shadow demon, mentioned in Nascu's exorcism texts. Then you had Ebizu, responsible for spontaneous abortions and childhood diseases. The Gala, also known as the Galu or Gala demons, are figures from Mesopotamian mythology, particularly associated with the Sumerians, Akkadians, and Babylonians. These entities have a significant role in the ancient understanding of demons, spirits, and underworld beings in Mesopotamian religion. The Gala were considered to be powerful, fearsome demons of the underworld, often acting as servants or agents of the gods of death, such as Ereshkigal, the Sumerian goddess of the underworld, and Nergal, the god of death and war. They were commonly associated with Gilgamesh in the epics, or the Epic of Gilgamesh, and were believed to dwell in the dark realms beneath the earth. Gala demons were often described as large, terrifying creatures with features reminiscent of wild beasts. They were sometimes depicted with human and animalistic qualities, with fierce faces and muscular bodies. Some texts describe them as having horns or wings, which made them particularly fearsome and menacing. The Gala were seen as harbingers of death, destruction, and chaos. Their primary role was to take souls to the underworld or bring destruction to the living world. They would often appear in rituals designed to appease or protect against them, especially in death-related rites. The Galas were not solely evil beings. Their role also included serving the gods in various capacities. They were sometimes invoked by deities to carry out divine punishment or to bring about retribution for wrongdoings. In many ways, Gala were considered to be agents of the underworld gods, often seen as instruments of the divine judgment. They were invoked during rituals, particularly in relation to death and burial practices, as their presence was believed to safeguard the soul's journey to the afterlife. The Gala were also seen as a significant opposition to the living, especially in religious rituals. In Mesopotamian belief, it was thought that they had the power to cause illness, accidents, and misfortune. However, these demons could also be controlled or appeased through religious rituals, prayers, and offerings. In many ways, the Gala demons symbolize the destruction and oppressive forces of the underworld, death, and misfortune. They represent the fear of the afterlife and the chaotic unknown, and their existence reflects the ancient desire to understand, control, and placate forces of death and destruction that seem beyond human comprehension. The Gala had a lasting influence on later demonology in the ancient world. Their conceptualization as agents of death and destruction appears in various ways throughout later cultures, including in Hebrew and Christian demonology, where similar figures would appear in religious texts. In essence, the Gala were an integral part of Mesopotamian myth and religion, associated with death, destruction, and the divine judgment of the souls. They were feared, revered, and praised through rituals as they represented the destructive forces of the underworld and the unknown aspects of death. These demons were deeply connected with Mesopotamian view of the afterlife and the complexities of spiritual existence beyond the mortal realm. Lamashtu is a figure from ancient Mesopotamian mythology as well, often depicted as a fearsome demoness, or spirit, known for her malevolent nature. She was commonly believed to be a threat to pregnant women, infants, and children. The Mashtu is typically shown with a combination of human and animal features, often with the body of a woman and head of a lion or a donkey, and the wings of a bird. She is sometimes portrayed with the legs of a bird and claws, further enhancing her monstrous characteristics. Lamashtu was feared primarily for her attacks on pregnant women and newborns. She was thought to cause miscarriages, stillborns, and infant deaths, and was believed to prey on infants during the night, sometimes sucking their blood or eating them. She was considered one of the evil spirits, or demons, often referred to as Udog in Mesopotamian texts, embodying malevolent forces in the world. In some texts, she was associated with other demonic figures, such as Pazuzu, though Lamashtu is seen as more independently sinister. Due to her fearsome reputation, Lamashtu was the subject of many protective rituals and amulets. People would place images of her or protective symbols such as figures or deities in homes, especially those where pregnant women resided. to ward off their influence or her influence. Her name and image would be inscribed on protective charms or amulets to keep her away. Lamishtu appears in ancient Sumerian, Akkadian, and Assyrian texts, but she is especially prominent in later Babylonian demonology. Her role and influence as a harmful figure were deeply ingrained in the supernatural beliefs of the time. In some mythological accounts, Lamashtu is seen as a daughter of Anu, the chief god of the Sumerian pantheon, and the goddess Antu. She is thought to be a member of the Kali demons, a class of demonic entities in Mesopotamian mythology. Lamashtu was feared because she represented a force that interfered with the cycle of birth and life, an area that was especially vulnerable and sacred. Lamashtu was often depicted in art and written texts, such as incantations, where she is shown threatening pregnant women or nursing mothers. In some cases, this depiction represents Lamashtu's. This depiction present Lamashtu as a woman with the face of a lion or donkey, emphasizing her dangerous and wild nature. Lamashtu's role as a demon who attacks mothers and children meant that she was also involved in rituals designed to protect against her. Protective rites against Lamashtu involved the use of magical incantations and amulets featuring various deities or symbols designed to offer protection against her evil influence. While Pazuzu was also considered a demon, he was sometimes invoked in rituals to protect against the more harmful effects of Lamashtu. In some contexts, Pazuzu was used as a counterbalance to Lamashtu's destructive nature. While Pazuzu himself was not benevolent, his powers were believed to be helpful in warding off Lamashtu's evil. Lamashtu's legacy can be found in a variety of Mesopotamian and later Middle Eastern traditions, especially in their demonology. Her characteristics as a spirit of destruction and fear persisted for many centuries. In her iconography, no, and her iconography continues to influence art and magical practices long after the fall of the ancient Mesopotamian civilization. Lamashtu represents a terrifying figure in ancient Mesopotamian belief systems. She embodies the forces of malevolence, particularly in the realms of childbirth and infancy, and serves as a reminder of the constant battle between protective deities and destructive forces in ancient Mesopotamia. Boy, I'm really screwing up on that reading part. I know that much. Okay, so the Gala are figures from ancient Mesopotamian mythology and religious practices, often associated with the underworld and the darker aspects of spirituality. Their role and characteristics are often found in the context of the broader Sumerian, Akkadian, and Assyrian mythologies, particularly in relationship to the underworld deities and spirits. They are generally depicted as evil spirits or demons. They are often associated with the netherworld, where they serve the gods of death, particularly Nergal, the god of death and disease in Mesopotamian religion. Now, these beings are frequently seen as malevolent forces that harass humans, and their actions often bring about death or suffering. They are also sometimes portrayed as revenant spirits returning from the underworld to influence the living. In some texts, they are shown as being demonic figures that threaten to drag the souls of the living or the deceased into the underworld, further intensifying their connection with death in the afterlife. The Gala are often described as bald-headed with thin skin. They were believed to wail and roar as they roamed the underworld. Their primary function in Mesopotamian mythology was that of tormentors. In particular, they were associated with haunting the living and bringing forth illness or misfortune, representing forces that sought to inflict harm upon humanity. Interesting, they seem to exist as a boundary between life and death, often serving as agents of the gods that oversee death. This role places them at the nexus between the natural world and the divine or supernatural realm. As mentioned earlier, the Gala were primarily connected with Nergal, the god of death. Nergal was one of the principal deities associated with the underworld in Mesopotamian mythology, and the Gala served him by carrying out his will and enforcing his rule over the dead. Nergal, often depicted as a wrathful deity, utilized these demonic beings to punish the living and maintain the order of the afterlife. In this role, the Gala functions similarly to the Erinyes or the Furies of Greek mythology, who also served as agents of vengeance and were associated with punishing wrongdoers. In some myths, the Gala could even be summoned to curse or punish individuals who had transgressed in some way, bringing divine retribution down upon them. In the context of the underworld, the Gala were sometimes tasked with guarding the gates of the netherworld, preventing the escape of spirits or the souls of the deceased. This role highlights their connection to death rituals and the afterlife. According to some mythological traditions, once a person died, their soul would have to pass through the underworld's various levels, encountering beings like the Gala along the way. The Gala were not typically worshipped in the same way as gods, but they were certainly acknowledged and feared by ancient Mesopotamians. Amulets and other protective objects were often created to guard against the influence of such spirits, and certain rituals might have been performed to appease these creatures or prevent them from causing harm. In some cases, exorcisms were conducted to drive away Gala and similar spirits, especially if they were believed to be responsible for illness, misfortune, or death. These rituals were part of a broader set of practices designed to protect the individual and community from supernatural forces. While the Gala are a distinct aspect of the Mesopotamian mythology, they share many similarities with spirits in other ancient cultures. For example, in Greek and Roman mythology, we see similar figures in the form of the Erinyes, or the Furies. I'm used to calling them the Furies, or luminous spirits of the dead who also harried the living. In Persian mythology, figures like the Deva serve as similar malevolent spirits associated with chaos and death. And with this day of this, it's DAEVA, just so you guys know. Interesting, the Gala can also be connected to the wider tradition of underworld spirits, which appears across many ancient cultures, from the Egyptian demons of the underworld to the Chinese hungry ghosts. In each of these traditions, malevolent spirits are often linked with forces of death and misfortune. The Gala in Mesopotamian mythology are dark, terrifying beings linked directly to death, the underworld, and the punishment of the living. The boundaries between life and death is often governed by powerful and threatening forces that work to maintain cosmic order, often through fear and suffering. These spirits demonstrate how ancient societies like the Mesopotamians personified death and suffering, shaping their religious and cultural practices to understand and ward off the malevolent forces that could harm them. Thus, the Gala serves as a symbol of the darker sides of Mesopotamia itself. Now, after that, I want to get into Lilitu or Lilitu. Now, Lilitu is how I'm going to say it because I'm really, really bad with pronouncing these words, but this is where it starts getting interesting. You'll start finding some fascinating correlations with later religions, and this is where it came from. This came from Mesopotamian lore, Sumerian lore. This is some of the oldest folklore that there is out there. And I'll take my drink of coffee real quick, and then I will start reading. Now Lilitu is a female demon in Mesopotamian mythology, often associated with darkness, the wind, and misfortune. She is believed to be a precursor to the later Hebrew Lilith, who became a prominent figure in Jewish folklore. Lilitu was feared as a night spirit who preyed upon pregnant women, infants, and men in their sleep. Lilith appears in Sumerian, Akkadian, and Babylonian texts dating back to at least the third millennium BC. Her name is derived from Lelu, meaning wind or spirit, linking her to the realm of storm demons and wandering spirits. Lilitu is mentioned in a passage where she inhabits the trunk of the Halupu tree, a sacred tree that the goddess Inanna planted. Gilgamesh later drives her away alongside other chaotic beings. She is described as a night spirit or ardent Lilu, a seductive but dangerous being who seeks to harm infants, expectant mothers. She often works alongside Lilu, male wind spirits, and ardent lily, another type of female demon. Lilitu is named in protective spells, indicating widespread fear of her attacks. People used amulets of Pazuzu, a demon who warded off Lilitu and her kind. Lilitu is primarily active at night, lurking in dark places or entering homes unseen. She was feared as a child snatcher, preying on newborns and expectant mothers, much like the later demoness Lamastu. Some texts describe her as a succubus-like entity, luring men into erotic encounters and draining their vitality. She was associated with infertility, miscarriage, and illnesses. Her role overlaps with other Mesopotamian demons, particularly Lamashtu, though the Lutu is more associated with wind, night, and seduction, while Lamashtu is a monstrous figure of childbirth-related death. Ancient Mesopotamians took several precautions to ward off the Lutu. Priests known as Asipu performed exorcisms invoking gods like Ea, Shamash, and Marduk to drive her away. Now here's an example of one of those incantations. By the name of Ea, by the fire of Shamash, let Lutu be gone. You shall not enter this house. Pazuzu amulets were worn or placed in homes to repel the Lutu. Clay tablets were with protective spells were placed near sleeping infants. Pregnant women performed purification rituals to avoid the Lutu's influence. Special charms were placed near the bed and doors to block her entry. The Lutu eventually influenced the Jewish Lilith, who appeared in later folklore as Adam's first wife in some rabbinic texts. Like the Lutu, Lilith is a child-killing demoness, a seductress of men, a night spirit who preys on the vulnerable. In later Kabbalistic traditions, Lilith becomes the queen of demons, reinforcing her dark legacy. Lilitu is a powerful and terrifying figure in Mesopotamian mythology. As a demon of the night, she embodies fear of infant mortality, miscarriage, and malevolent seduction. Her evolution into Lilith in Jewish and medieval traditions shows how myths adapt over time. After that, I'm going to go into Mikel Rez Lemuti. That in Akkadian, that means the one who brings evil upon the head. And Mikel Rez Lemuti is a sinister demon from Mesopotamian mythology. This entity is one of several malevolent spirits feared for their ability to bring harm, misfortune, and chaos into the lives of humans. Mikel Rez Lemuti is part of a category of destructive spirits called the Atuku, Alu, or Galu, that were believed to cause sickness, bad luck, and terror. As its name suggests, Mikel Rez Lemuti is a demon that brings evil upon one's head, implying its association with curses, afflictions, and divine punishment. Often described as an unseen yet ever-present force, it strikes unexpectedly, installing fear and paranoia in its victims. Some texts suggest that Mikel Rez Lemuti causes not only physical illness, but also mental distress, confusion, and despair. This demon was often mentioned alongside others like Rabisu, the lurking demon, Labasu, and Alu, a nightmare spirit, all of which were feared for their ability to invade the personal space of humans, especially at night. Mikel Rez Lemuti appears in several Akkadian and Sumerian exorcism texts and protection prayers, usually in lists of demons that needed to be repelled. These texts were recited by priests, which are the Asipu or Mashmashu, and this was done during rituals to purify a person or household. One such incantation describes it as Maluku Res Lamuti, who roams the streets unseen, bringing ruin upon the innocent. Be gone. May the gods cast you into the abyss. Another text equates this demon to a shadow that follows its victims, much like a person cursed or dark omen. Mesopotamians took various steps to protect themselves from this demon. Priests would invoke powerful deities such as Ea, Marduk, and Shamash to banish the demon. Protective spells were written on clay tablets and placed in homes. People wore protective amulets featuring gods like Pazuzu, a demon known to ward off other evil entities. Symbols of divine protection, like the magic circle, were drawn around sleeping areas. Rituals involving holy water, fire, and incense were performed to cleanse the afflicted home. Animal sacrifices or offerings were sometimes made to appease the gods. In some cases, a figurine representing the demon was crafted from clay or wax, then ritually burned or buried to symbolize its expulsion. Malki Res Lamuti is similar to Alu, a shadow demon that causes sleep paralysis and nightmares. Rabisu, a lurking spirit that hides in dark places and ambushes people. Labasu and Labartu, demons that spread disease and misfortune. And then Lamashtu, a female demon who preys on pregnant women and infants. This demon may have influenced later concepts of evil omens, curses, and shadowy spirits in folklore, including medieval beliefs about malevolent ghosts and spirits that bring doom. Mekelrez Lamuti was a feared figure in Mesopotamian demonology, representing an unseen but ever-present force of misfortune and despair. Ancient rituals and protections sought to keep such spirits at bay, emphasizing the constant struggle between order, Asu, and chaos, the Mutu. The Basu is one of the many demons in Mesopotamian myths as well, associated with disease, nightmares, and sudden death. Unlike some demons that served the gods or had dual roles, Labasu was considered a wholly malevolent force that preyed on individuals, particularly children and the vulnerable. Labasu appears in Akkadian incantation texts, where he is often listed alongside other demons such as Lamashtu, who also preyed on children and pregnant women, and Labartu, a similar demon associated with disease. These texts describe Labasu as a lurking force that brings fear and misfortune, particularly through dreams or nighttime attacks. One specific Akkadian incantation describes Labatsu as a roaming demon bringing terror in the night, unseen but felt, bringing sickness and affliction. Since Labasu was believed to attack victims directly, Mesopotamians developed various protective measures. Priests or exorcists, known as Isipu, could chant incantations to banish Labasu. These incantations invoked gods like Ea, Marduk, and Shamash, calling on them to drive away the demon. Now, an example of a protective Akkadian incantation is this: by the name of Ea, the Wise One, by the name of Marduk, the Mighty One, let Labasu be cast out. May the fire of Shamash burn him away. People carried protective amulets inscribed with divine names or symbols. Figurines of protective spirits like Pazuzu, a demon who warded off other demons, were often placed near sleeping areas to repel Labasu. Victims afflicted by Labasu's presence would undergo purification rites, using water and incense to cleanse their body and home. Priests might mark the household with sacred symbols or use ritualistic fumigation to drive out the spirit. In some cases, small figurines of Labasu were made from clay or wax and then ritually destroyed to symbolize his banishment. Labasu shares similarities with other Mesopotamian demons too, like Lamashtu, a demon who targets infants and pregnant women, of course, then Atuku and Alu, spirits that can cause nightmares and sleep paralysis. Then you have Giddim, which is also ghosts, and that is restless spirits that haunt the living. Now, Labasu's description bears resemblance to sleep paralysis demons in figures like the night hag in various cultures. The idea of an invisible entity attacking during sleep also connects to later folklore about incubi and succubi. Labasu is a malevolent spirit or demon in Mesopotamian mythology, particularly feared for its destructive and harmful nature. In ancient texts, Labasu is often depicted as a lurking, chaotic force that brings sickness, misfortune, and death, particularly preying on individuals in their sleep. Labasu is classified among the many demonic entities of Mesopotamian belief, often associated with nightmares and sudden illnesses. It was believed to attack people, especially children, in their sleep, making it a particularly feared entity in everyday life. Many ancient demons were connected to sickness, and Labasu was no exception, sometimes blamed for unexplained illnesses or bad omens. To ward off Labasu, Mesopotamians performed exorcisms and recited protective incantations. Amulets and charms were also used to protect against such malevolent forces. Now, that is basically what I wanted to do for this one. I wanted to um, pull this stuff together and make it an episode for Strange Stories, because this is like some of the older versions of later scary entities in history, like the Djinn, and then also like the Hungry Ghosts in the Orient, and things of that nature. So I I've also been doing my weird science stuff that I've been doing here lately, and then I finally thought about it, and I was like, you know what, I did want to do something when it came to Sumerian folklore, and the next episode that I do will actually be me ending the season for Strange Stories. So I wanted to do this one on this episode so that I could get this in here because I have been writing about it on other channels that I have. You can check those out on Earth. I believe it. No, yeah, it. No, it's on the Storyteller. I have it on the Storyteller, and the stories go under the name Shadows of Mesopotamia. Um, Now I did those, but then I wanted to come back and I wanted to do a show for um, the wonderful world of weirdness and strange stories, so that I could actually have it on these channels too, because this is really cool stuff. Um, this is stuff that you're not going to hear on a lot of the streams about ancient history and stuff like that. This is the more exotic stuff that people really don't talk about. Um, I do want to point out too that there is a good uh, professor, basic uh, basically, who does do research into this. I believe it's Doctor no Professor Hinkle or Finkel. Um, let me check this out. I'm going to do a quick search. I always mess his name up, so I want to make sure. He's a professor in England. Professor, yeah, there we go. No, it's Finkel. Yeah, there we go. Professor Finkel and Irvin Finkel. I always mess his name up, but he has really good episodes concerning this subject. He's Dr. Uh, Irving Finkel, and he's a part of the British Museum. You can check him out on YouTube if you guys are interested. He has just a lot of cool, amazing stuff. He talks about the Babylonian map of the world. He also did a documentary where he actually tried to rebuild the Sumerian version of the Ark, for Noah's Ark, and that was pretty cool. But the most amazing thing I think he's done was he did the series about the old demons and spirits of the ancient world. And then the cool part about it is too that he did it on Halloween, which I thought was pretty cool. So I wanted to give a shout out to him because college professors and museum people working in museums don't get very much recognition on YouTube. So that's just basically the best way I can say it. He's a pretty good guy, and you should check him out. So with that being said, I hope you guys did enjoy this. If you did, make a comment, give me some feedback, things of that nature. I have yet to get any of that. I'd love to hear from you. So I do have people that talk to me about this stuff all the time. I just don't get comments in the comment section. I think that would be cool. But after this, like I said, I'm going to do my last episode. That will be next week, and it's going to be pretty much a review of all the stuff that I've gone over. I'm going to kind of give you my final thoughts after going through a lot of this stuff and where it took me, because I've actually done research on this stuff, you know what I mean, as I've been doing it as well as before. So I just, there are some things that I do want to go through and review. It's kind of like I see it kind of like with people in the news. You always hear people on the news give the story, but they never go back and do a follow-up on it. And that's the way I think they should do it. Just like with everything I do, I should review some of the stuff that I do so that I can actually, just kind of reflect on the stuff that I've covered and see see what I learned from it if I have. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please like, subscribe, share, make comments. Let me know what you think. And thank you for watching. Right, actually, let me check and see if anybody's left any comments. Usually I don't get comments, so I'm cool. Yeah. See, nobody left any comments. Not even the spammers wanting me to freaking send them money so that I can have like 5 million subscribers. So, yep, that's it. We're good to go, and I will talk to you guys later. I hope you enjoyed. Bye.